What's up, everyone? Welcome to Life Untapped. I'm your host, Ivany Villalobos, here at 7 Grand in San Diego, a stylish whiskey lounge like no other. Join us as we tap into the latest trends, explore lifestyles, and as always, get you in the know. We'll cover all this plus much more right here on Life Untapped. All right, everyone, so we're back at 7 Grand, where they offer 2 cool pool tables, and we'll talk more about that later. But first, what started off as a dream turned into reality and has now quickly grown into a hotspot for what Barrio Dogg calls Chicano comfort food.
Our menu is a plane ticket to take you around the world of flavors. We use the hot dog as a vehicle to show you flavors from all over the world, not just Mexico. Barrio Dogg is a development of a dream that my compadre and I had. It went from an idea to a plan, and we were able to open up in 2017. So we designed a hot dog cart out of a '64 Impala. Right away, we saw that people were interested in what we did. We gave them a sense of comfort with our food. So in May of 2018, we opened up the dining room. We were able to bring more people in to enjoy what we were doing and continue to grow the brand of Barrio Dogg. What we do here is specialize in hot dogs. We have hot dogs from Tijuana, we have hot dogs from Japan, we have German style dogs, we do chili cheese from Texas. There's so much variety, and the hot dog is the star of the show. So when you come into Barrio Dogg, first of all, I want you to feel like you're at my house. I want you to get a feel of family in the neighborhood, from the sounds that you hear to the smells that you smell. What you're gonna see around you is gonna be like walking into a lowrider museum. I wanted to take you back in time. There's time capsules all over this place that have been opened up to share with the public. Being embraced has a lot to do with where your heart is. And people recognize right away that Barrio Dogg was not just here to sell hot dogs. I was here to share a little bit of my culture, a little bit of my life with the rest of the community, and that's what's allowed us to grow. I think that's what drives me, right? People to like my food is what drives me, but I let the food be the star. What we do, what drives me, is to continue to produce food that people like. You know, Barrio Dogg's menu will never go stale. We're always developing new flavors. We're always trying new things. We're always thinking outside of the box. So every time you come into Barrio Dogg, you'll try something new.
Yum, that looks so good. Making me hungry right now. All right, so speaking of Barrio Dogg, they actually recently opened up a tap room featuring their house beer, Pinstripe Pale Ale, which comes from a collaboration with Second Chance Beer, an award-winning brewery with a really, really cool mission. Check them out.
I think it's pretty easy to make beer. Really, it's pretty easy to make mediocre beer, I should say. But to really elevate it to that status where when you taste it, you feel like, oh man, this is something delicious. It's a lot of little details along the way.
Second Chance is the product of basically 3 dreamers who left their cushy corporate jobs and went off and did their own thing. Our company mission is giving the people, planet, and animals a second chance. We do that by all of our tasting rooms. Decor, if you look around here, is repurposed.
Really try not to buy things new. We try to repurpose and recycle.
Every event that we put on in the tasting room, we have a charity benefactor in there, and we just try and put good out into the world, and it all started with brewing good beer. We are most well known for the
Tabula rasa, which means a blank slate in Latin, which is cool for a second chance because you can start many things with a blank slate.
Tabula rasa is our toasted porter, and that won
3 times for us now at the Great American Beer Festival, which for us is the pinnacle of beer in the United States.
We can say now that's the best porter in the U.S. and probably the world. I don't want to get too crazy, but I mean, no other beer has won 3 gold medals in 4 years. We donate over 1% of sales back to charities every year, and this year we're actually well over that 1%. Some of the charities we work with are Shelter to Soldier, Second Chance Dog Rescue. We also work with the Animal Pad. We partnered with Headstrong when we did the 25th anniversary of Forrest Gump. Twice a month we host Fix-It clinics where volunteers come out and you can bring anything to this place and they will either fix it for you or show you how to repurpose it. And that saves it from going to the landfill that's already overfilled and whatnot. It's nice to work for a company that our mission statement is just how we practice things. We want to lead by example. We want to bring people in, and our staff really embraces it.
Coming up on Life Untapped, this sophisticated lounge brings whiskey and people together for an unforgettable evening. We'll show you that plus more next.
The right connection can open a world of curiosity for your child. With Cox, families that have a K-12 student and receive government assistance could qualify for low-cost home internet with Wi-Fi. That means more learning and more achieving. Qualify now. It's time to connect with Cox.
So let's bring it back to 7 Grand, because there's more than meets the eye to this place. There's live music, amazing games, and of course, a great selection of whiskey. They also offer your traditional old-fashioned, whiskey sour, and my favorite, mint julep. Did I also mention they have a fine selection of cigars and a fun ambiance? Of course they do. 7 Grand also offers a whiskey tasting like no other. Check out the Whiskey Society.
A lot of people don't realize it, but ethanol is actually poisonous. So when you try a whiskey right off the bat for the first time, it's gonna burn your senses. It takes a while for your tongue to acclimate to drinking poison. So a great way to get the night started is try an old fashioned. And an old fashioned having a little bit of sugar, a little bit of bitters, some ice, and an orange zest is really gonna help your palate acclimate to drinking whiskey. I started working here 7 years ago. And when I started working here, I knew about 2 or 3 whiskeys like Johnny Walker, Jack Daniels, Maker's Mark. And when you walk into a bar that has over 700 whiskeys, it was almost intimidating in a sense. But as you gradually start tasting those whiskeys, you build up like a repertoire of knowledge and whiskeys that you like, whiskeys that you might not necessarily don't like. There are so many contributing factors that go into making a specific whiskey. For example, the distillation, the location it's at, what kind of barrels is it being aged in. All those factors combined create completely different whiskeys all around the world.
Cheers to another Coolest Whiskey Society. And with the film crew.
So our Whiskey Societies happen every Wednesday and Friday, and they're really fun for groups of friends or just individuals that are looking to learn a little bit more about whiskey. And what's really fun is getting all those people in a room together and sharing a conversation about whiskey and really getting people engaged.
Thank you very, very much, everybody, for coming out tonight. I am always happy to talk about Woodinville, but especially happy to be here in Bar 3-Piece.
They're meant for everybody to come to, be it somebody like myself who drinks whiskey very often, or somebody who's actually just very new to whiskey, even maybe somebody who's never really had it. It's a really good way to introduce yourself to something that you haven't had, and you get a little pour, so you don't have to buy into a very expensive pour of whiskey.
So the first thing that you have, it'll be on your left, is our bourbon. We've got 5 whiskeys to go through tonight.
Probably one of my favorite part about this is I never have had a presenter come in or anybody from the bar staff here try to tell you what you should be tasting.
So go ahead and give it a taste. With rye, the big thing is the baking spices. Cinnamon and nutmeg and cloves and that kind of a thing that you taste. Everything else is up to you, but that's generally what you're looking for in a rye whiskey.
They'll give you some hints, but overall, they'll tell you, how do you properly taste it to not overwhelm your palate, but they're gonna allow you to be free to just taste what you want and then actually shout that out to the rest of the crowd.
If someone was on the fence about attending a whiskey society, I would always say you should come, because you never know what whiskey you're gonna like. Customers are generally pretty happy after the tastings. Like 5 whiskeys and an old fashioned usually gets you in a pretty good mood.
You know what, everybody here just wants to have a good time and they want to make sure you're having a good time too.
A talented artist puts his passion to work and learn how to design your own skateboard. All this plus more coming up next.
Explore the Southwest lifestyle, the culture, the music, the food, y más. Join hosts J.R. Cardenas and Vanessa Ramirez for a Southwest adventure on Subida. Travel the state, enjoy the food, discover new artists, and fun things to do. Every week, JR and Vanessa share their discoveries with you.
Watch Subida Sunday and Monday night only on YurView and YurView.com.
So here at 7 Grand, there's a lot of fine decor like this custom-made lamp. And speaking of art, artist Sean Dominguez grew up in San Diego riding waves and creating surf art. So when he got the opportunity to combine both of his passions together, it all turned into a career path he never dreamed of.
The last painting took me about a week. This one I just started yesterday, actually, but I still got a long ways to go. Well, the reason I paint outside is natural sunlight. It shows the colors in its true form, and then as the sun kind of moves around, you get a different feel. This one is going to be a new beer for Lost Abbey.
Way back in 2005, one of our owners had this idea for a brewery that's kind of Lost Abbey that never had its home, and we created the Lost Abbey. So the goal is, we have this cross, and if you look closer at the cross, it has all 4 elements of beer, so yeast, water, grains, and hops. The Lost Abbey in general is a premium brand, so we wanted to make sure that the art that was being conveyed was premium as well, and that's why we use Sean for all the art on the Lost Abbey, because he's a great artist.
Tommy had this idea of labels with like fine paintings on them. So he wanted the beers to really have an elegant feel to it, classy, kind of give it a little more style to it. Took off from there. Each beer had a story behind it.
We tried to tell the story of that beer, the front being very, very art focused.
There's definitely a theme in every one, so we're trying to capture that theme like a story. One thing though is about Lost Abbey is all the paintings are basically kind of start off more biblical based, kind of like Old Theme Testament and stuff.
He's a great artist, he's super talented, and we pretty much just have to give him an idea of what we want, and he creates magic, and he's done it with tons of different mediums, and yeah, he's great to work with.
A new beer for Lost Abbey, it's called Exile. It's when Adam and Eve get kicked out of the Garden of Eden, and God sends down the angel with the flaming sword, and I'm going to have him right here eventually. And then Adam and Eve walking into the dark, and this would be basically light green and everything, and this is like God kind of taking everything away as they're leaving.
I mean, the label is huge because it's got to tell the story of your entire brewery in a passing glance, which is extremely difficult. That's why you make a dynamic label, so it catches people's eyes. Coming up with the name of a beer is hard enough, but then coming up with what you want art-wise, luckily Sean is as talented as he is, so we can just make up something and go, can you do this? And 9 times out of 10 he can, and does it quite well.
Impressive. I can barely draw. And if you want to tap into your creative side, check out this workshop where you can do it yourself skateboard.
This one has the longest kick-to-kick distance. We didn't grow up, at least my generation, building things with our hands. And I think it's really important to be able to have the confidence to pursue a project and try to design and build something. The class today is simply about coming into a workspace and building a skateboard. I got started teaching this class to help encourage more people to be creative and have more confidence in creating things.
I've been able to watch how Bo builds boards in the past, and so it was really cool to actually be on the other side of it and be part of the making process.
I've been skateboarding for almost 20 years, and I've been building boards for about 5 years. So having that combined experience allows me to kind of come at it from both angles of this is how to make a board and make a good quality product, but this is also how it's gonna work. Translate those lines.
I really wanted a specific wheelbase. That's basically the distance between wheel to wheel. Bo had to show me exactly how to mark out the distances between where the wheels were going to be.
So when we're making the measurements and drawing the lines, it's really important to be precise because that is what you're going to build too.
There were a bunch of different templates for different size boards, different shapes. So I chose a template that I thought matched the size I wanted, and it was really cool.
You have boards that are fatter, some that are skinnier. Depending on what kind of footing you have really determines what kind of board selection that you will choose.
So the first thing is going to be punching the holes.
I haven't used 90% of the tools we used.
There is definitely a level of intimidation when using these tools. They are dangerous tools and they do need to be respected.
He's really good about being patient and making sure that you feel comfortable and you know what's going on.
I like to first drill a pilot hole. We're going to use tape once we drill those to cover the back side of the holes, and then go through with the bigger drill bit.
The jigsaw was a little interesting. I didn't even know how to set the boards, so it was hanging off the edge of the table. But Bo's really good about answering questions and making sure that you know what you're doing prior to you using the equipment.
When you cut it out with a saw for the first time, like, okay, like we're getting somewhere now.
You're curving it in one direction, but it gives you such control when you're trying to cut around the shape that you want. When you're using the sanding belt to shape it out, I think that's just one of the coolest things to just see something go from so raggedy to just like the smoothest thing that you'll ever see. And so finishing that off, it gives you a lot of satisfaction. Growing up, when you bought skateboards, you just selected the artwork that was on it, but understanding the different shapes and actually how to pick a board, it gives you a different perspective about skateboards. It's not just a board with wheels on it. There's actual physics and science to it that these makers are teaching us. I think that's like one of the coolest things about it.
Next, find out how this spirit is environmentally friendly. You're watching Life Untapped.
Watch Creative Living only on YurView. Check your local listings for air times.
All right, so question of the day. What do you get when you have 1,500 extra pounds of bread, cupcakes, Twinkies, and cake? Any guesses? I'll tell you. Vodka, of course. Well, at least that's what Misadventure Vodka does. Watch this.
A lot of people think that vodka has to be made from wheat or rye. In reality, vodka can be made from anything. And the reason you can make vodka from all these different ingredients is because of what the nature of vodka is. Vodka, by definition, is a neutral spirit. It is odorless and flavorless. When you distill it, you're just trying to get as much pure ethanol as possible out of there. Nearly 40% of all food that's grown in the world ends up in a landfill. And when you're wasting all that food, you're also wasting the land, the water, the resources that are going to grow those crops. And then once all that food ends up in a landfill, it creates massive amounts of greenhouse gases. So the foods that we use in our product come directly from the food bank. Grocery stores will donate all of their products to the food bank. They only focus on giving nutritious foods to the needy. Everything else, unfortunately, they end up having to pay waste dollars to throw it away. And so what we do is act like a caboose on the food system. And we are taking these baked goods in particular because there's not a lot of nutritional value. They're filled with starches and sugars, which is not great for your stomach, but they're great for making alcohols. And so if you can imagine everything in your grocery store bakery aisle, French baguettes, bagels, blueberry muffins, cupcakes, all of that is what we use to make our vodka. When we looked at this problem, we looked at it from a distiller's perspective. Instead of this being food being thrown away, this was starches and sugars being thrown away. That kind of different way of looking at the problem allowed us to kind of ask the question like, well, can we do something about this? And could we help society's problem, and could society help our problem at the same time too? That led to about 2 years of R&D and the creation of Misadventure Vodka, which is the world's first vodka made from surplus baked goods we get from food banks. Growing up in this day and age, there really wasn't any consideration of not making an environmentally conscious company. It's something that we just have to do nowadays. We should all be thinking about where we get our resources, how we use those resources, and then how it's ultimately disposed of, and how all of that works in a symbiotic relationship with the natural world around us. We might be one of the only ones in our industry to do this, but as far as society goes, we're part of a bigger movement. If everyone in the US switched from drinking their other vodka to drinking Misadventure, we would sequester the same amount of CO2 from going to the atmosphere as Yosemite National Park. So that's the really cool thing about what we do is the more someone enjoys Misadventure, the more they sip, the more they help the environment out. So it's one less thing to regret in the morning.
Well, that does it for us today. Thank you for tuning in. That was Life Untapped. We'll see you next time. Cheers, guys. Follow us on Instagram at Life Untapped for all the latest craze and lifestyle trends.